Hey everybody, nice to see everybody here at the MAGWest digital stream. We are Pixelated Audio. For those of you that don't know us, we are a video game music podcast. We've been around for about 7 years now, and we're actually very lucky to be back here. We used to be at MAG during some of the live events, year 1, 2, 3. I'm actually wearing a shirt from, I think, 2019 or 2018. And today we're joined by a very special guest. And if you haven't seen our show or heard our show, typically we talk about and play VGM. So we're going to be doing that, same as we always do, but a little bit more, somebody's saying, hey, we're going to be doing that, but a little bit more live today. So if you've got any questions in the chat for us or our guest Chase, throw them in there, but I'm going to hand it over to Brian.
Yeah, a little bit about our show before we get started. Pixelated Audio, we cover VGM on a broad spectrum from games in all different genres, whether it's popular, obscure, mostly leaning on the obscure side. As long as it's good music, like we want to take a look at it, deeper dive. And we tend to focus on composers, the men and women behind the music. And, back in the early days for game audio and stuff like that, even though it may seem simple, like there's a lot of like history there and a lot to enjoy. So we like to explore all these different avenues.
Yeah, we've talked about everything from obviously the game itself, the history of game development, the composers. Sometimes we go into more of a deep dive on technical stuff. We try not to go too far on that so people aren't totally lost, but we
depending on the episode, right? Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. We also really loving having composers on. We've had numerous ones on the show so far. It's been really fun to hear the inside stories of their careers and just all the information and the history that goes along with that. And with that said, we have a good friend of the show joining us who's also a composer, and we're going to talk about their music today. This is Chase Bethea.
Hi, everyone. Hello, MAGWest. It is an honor to be here with my friends. We got Gene and Brian and be amongst the MAGFest community.
We're happy to have you. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we didn't really introduce ourselves, Gene.
No.
I'm Brian, and that's Gene.
That's right. It should say our names down below, but there's not much to say about us. We've been doing this a while. We really love just being a conduit for great game music and giving indie game composers and even bigger name composers an opportunity to talk about their process and their work. So that's why we've got Chase on today.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk to Chase. He's actually been on the show, like 5 years ago?
Yeah, episode 20.
long ago. And we got, this was when his career was just barely getting off the ground, and we played some of his tracks, really good stuff, but so much has happened since then. So bringing him back, it just felt like such a cool throwback. He's a good friend. We got a lot of really cool tracks to talk about today, and about Chase's career as being an indie composer and, making a name for himself. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our first track. We'll take a listen. This is Questlike Pocket, Battle 3v3.
I think we've got some visuals for this track too before, right, Chase?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome.
Some visuals.
Cool.
So just a bit of context really quick. This is a rhythm type of game that's being developed. It's actually available now on Android. You can play, and it was just doing systemic updates, but I'm doing the music system to think of like Pokemon Go and Monster Hunter conflated, and the battle tracks are going to be rhythmic based to beat or capture the monsters. So this is the first track from there.
All right. Cool. That was Questlike Pocket, Battle 3v3. And Chase is an award-winning composer and technical audio designer. He's been composing professionally for over 10 years and has scored music for over 20 shipped games so far. This is impressive.
Yeah.
I really like this track.
Thank you.
And Chase, what have you been telling us? How many games are you working on currently right now?
8 games currently.
It was 7 the last time we talked.
I counted again today.
Oh, that's crazy.
8 is my favorite and my lucky number. So yeah, it happens to be 8.
Cool. Cool. So let's jump back to the wee years of Chase when you were just a little guy getting into music. You told us about this on your show long ago, but as we get older, like our memory is just not that good anymore. So you got to re-explain yourself.
All right, so we'll take a small, tiny time capsule. And so I started out in game music in 2011. I have a weird, it's a bunch of different paths that I kind of took to kind of just take different opportunities. I was an intern at a mobile game studio called Mobatori or Zubis. I was an ex-Activision employee that started the company, Alex Bertoluzzi, and I was getting my start there with some stuff. The company went under, and then I decided, okay, I'm hungry for more. I want to do this, and so it was freelance. And I bought a book called The Complete Guide to Game Audio by Aaron Marks. This was the second edition. I read half of the book. I learned about online communities, such as forums at the time. I don't think those are a thing anymore. And that I posted my work. And I didn't get a bite off the first one, but the second one I did. I pitched for this game that was a mobile puzzle type game, and I landed my first paid gig and shipped the game, which is extremely rare, really hard to do. But I always, I guess, had that sound. I was told from producing music for several years that my music sounded like it should be in games. So when I read half of that book, and that was it. I've tasted nothing but the hunger for more.
You were still a student at this time, right?
Yeah, I was going to Moorpark College at the time, so I hadn't even graduated. I didn't even finish all of my theory classes. I just need to start now.
No time like the present.
Just do half of the game. Just do half, like all the parts you know, and then just wait on the rest. Save that for like 2.0 or something.
Exactly. So that game was called Electron Flux.
Nice. Cool. So what's your musical background?
My musical background is a bit all over the place. I grew up in Chicago, so I listened to a lot of smooth jazz. I was in band and choir from 5th to 7th grade. I started in beginning, and then I quickly moved up to advanced band by, I think, like 6th grade, and advanced choir. Then I was away from that type of stuff for about several years. Then I got into classical music through my college years, Moorpark College, started taking piano. I was playing alto saxophone in the beginning band, by the way, so that was my first instrument. And then took classical lessons, then moved up into jazz, and then through the rest of my college career and whatnot. So I've pretty much covered almost all the staple things you learn in school for music stuff.
And so where do games come into this? Were you a big gamer growing up?
Yeah, I've been saying recently that the first instrument I played was the Game Boy. It was a sound test. Just playing. I had a Game Boy camera. You can make tracks on the Game Boy camera.
Oh, yeah.
And that was where I was making my first game audio tracks during 5th and 6th grade. So probably the time I had that alto saxophone, I was playing Game Boy camera tracks and making game audio music on there.
That's how they get you.
That's where I've always been a player from the beginning, ever since I was 6 years old.
Game Boy camera and printer. That's how they hook you.
Yeah.
I think
the first selfie.
Yeah, that's right. I think I remember you played a track from Final Fantasy Legend 2 long ago, and that was really important to you. So Game Boy has a long history in my life as well, and I know I remember you just said nothing but good stuff about like your childhood around the Game Boy. So that's awesome that is kind of what brought you over to the dark side, I guess.
Yeah.
Why don't we get into another track here? We only have, I wish we had like 3 hours today, but we have limited time. We have a lot of great music. So let's play a track from, and this is one that I really, really like here. This is from Reclaimed Earth. This is Challenge Accepted. This is cool. And no, you're not seeing that image incorrectly. This is a 3D low-res first-person shooter, which is really, really cool. Tell us about this track first.
Yeah, so this track was composed during a game jam called Low Res Jam, I think 2016 or something like that.
2016, I think I remember too.
Yeah, and so it was we wanted to kind of do this Turok but Doom Quake thing, and then so we managed to do that. And I really love, one of my favorite video game composers is Jesper Kuhd, and I was thinking, all right, I know that this art style is this way, but I really want to pull in this sound and make it more grungy and just apocalyptic, but hopeful and survival. So I just really needed it dirty, but I needed it a little bit modern with the sound. I didn't want to go with the chiptune type of route. And I love that, but I just wanted to have that extra oomph for just like, you really are by yourself. You have to take back the earth. No holds barred.
Yeah, I mean that's really good. Now I can totally see the Jesper influence is there for sure. I mean, if had the track been like 12 minutes, I would have definitely seen the on
the Sega Genesis, like a 20-minute long track. But, one of the things that we really love about the show and the music that we've selected is we've tried our best to showcase a wide range of music from Chase. It's you're going to have chippy stuff, orchestral stuff, kind of techno electronic. We're really big fans of your music, and it's been awesome listening through a lot of this to pick out stuff to showcase for this show.
This one's particularly this game is actually close to my heart, because not only did you work on it, but one of the hosts of the show also did the design artwork. One of my really good friends, James Brunner, and yes. I hope you guys work together again, because like his artwork is amazing. Your composition is incredible. So good stuff.
Thank you.
Hopefully we see some more stuff. So how do you choose the projects that you work on? Now that you're, one of the big shots.
Well, it comes down. No, just kidding. I'm in between, because I'm still, this is my 10th year in the industry. And so I'm looking at it from a longevity type of thing. I look at how actors I grew up with are still doing the acting, in their time right now. And they're still, there. And so the projects that I'm looking for are the ones that I'm scared of, I don't think that I can do, or the ones that are just, they don't look, they may have a similar mechanic to something, but the art style is just a little bit different. I'm just being perspicacious about, will I play this later down the line, or will somebody else kind of like hearken to this, or will they find it interesting? So I'm tapping into my inner player as a child to think, is this interesting? Is this something I really am excited for? And so it's a small little spark. It's something similar to relationships, like when you feel that thing for someone, it's like, oh, okay, it's like feeling. So I take that same type of energy and I approach it to projects that may come my way or that I seek out myself.
It's like the KonMari method for game audio.
Yeah,
feel the spark.
It makes sense, right? You want to take on projects that you feel passionate about. I mean, at least in some way, there's something really interesting about it. So no, that makes sense. But should we move on to the next thing, Brian? Because I'm really excited about this next part. We actually have a live demo from Chase for some interactive audio. Tell us a little bit about this.
So this is a project called Potions Please, and I was the composer for it. I did the design systems to make it feel a little bit different than what they kind of were initially thinking in terms of something linear. And there's 3 different areas that the player can kind of go through to make potions. You have your interior area, you have where you do all the potions and your community comes up to you and asks for specific requests. And then there is the exterior area where you can go around the community and talk to different people, find out what they need for potions to help them in their everyday life. And then there's mini games where you collect minerals and then do different trading. And so I utilize those 3 different parts to broaden the scope of the score into making it more interactive. So when the player's playing a mini game, there are different parts. If they're playing 3 different mini games in that one area. And then when they exit the mini game to go to the exterior to be around the community, or then back into the interior. So you're going to be hearing those 3 sections specifically in this demo. And I can kind of get started now, since I've kind of given you the premise of it.
While you're doing that, can you remind us what company is developing this game?
The company that developed the game is NYX Hydra.
Nice.
Cool. And it's available on Google Play and iOS?
It is available in a specific country, but not in our country.
Well, that's a bummer.
For now,
hopefully it will be.
The foreseeable
for as long as I know about whatever I know about.
Okay.
All right.
That's all I can say.
We'll keep it at that.
Yeah, let's bring up the screen share so we can kind of see what you got going on with this interactive audio program.
Cool. So this program is Elias. It is an audio middleware. For those who do not know what audio middleware is, it is the bridge between writing the music, which I write in Cubase, and it talks to the game engine, and this is how I create the dynamic systems that will bridge the gap between the two for things to kind of work in that fashion. And so I found this to be the best workflow in this case for this one specifically, because it worked well with the mobile limitations that we kind of deal with in terms of what's running on your application there. So what you're seeing here is these things, the loop tracks are the instruments of the stems themselves, and stems are just, I write the entire track in a linear and a horizontal form and pre-designing it in the Cubase software, and then having it come down mostly vertically, whereas you can see that these are the instruments themselves. And then this here is very important, the numbers. I have to think about if these are called levels. And so that means that only a set layer of music is going to play. So for example, we're going to play level 1 here now. That means it's exterior. So if I pull that drop down, that means that only these drums and things are playing here. So you're in the exterior part of the game. Now say I wanted to go to the interior. I set that up. I played live harmonica here, so there are 4 different variations that are going to play. Excuse me, 5. Now say we wanted to go to the minigame, we'd have to exit to go to the exterior, so we'll do that. We'll say interior, exit to exterior. We'll go back there. In this part of the game, we're at Kingsport, so it's like a dock, so it has a little bit more of a more port sounding feel with the sea and fish and birds. But we're going to play a mini game, so we're going to exit the exterior and go to the first mini game. So now we're in a different level. We're on level 3. Say the mini game is they're playing something different. So we can go to one of the mini game is going to pick up. And same thing with part 2. When we're done playing the mini game, we'll exit to the exterior. And since we're in part 2, we'll do part 2 the exterior. And we want to go to our potions, so then we'll go to the exterior, exit to the interior. And that'll be how we navigate around the game. So I'm pre-designing all of this before I even probably play it to see all of these steps that the player may happen to do.
Well, even though this is one track, it seems like you have to compose like a symphony to, that's a lot of work.
I was going to ask, so when you say you pre-compose in this software, or do you almost think of it like, sketch on piece of paper, thinking like, oh, okay, this is where this goes. The interior music's going to sound a little bit more like that. Like, are you mapping it out like really sketchy at first?
Not all the time. It's pretty rare that I do have to do that. In this case, for this game, that didn't happen that way. So in Cubase, there is a function called an arranger track. And this is a pretty powerful tool I realized I could use to my advantage. And I can write, say I had 4 bars, and I thought of that 4 bars. I wrote that 4 bars of whatever little melody and chord progression I have. And I write, and then the arranger track says A, and then I write in this song form, it's A, B, A. So we'll go, and then the next 4 bars will be B, and then so now I have 8 bars. So between A and B, I can just jump between the two to see how they transition. This gives me my design idea to see, okay, part A is going to go well with part B. Now I can go down to C, D, E, and F. It's called through compose composition, and see what works wherever I need to jump around. Then I export that out into the individual instruments that you see at the top, marimba, drums, etc. And I've already designed it to be played in a horizontal form. And so it's just mostly like, think of it as like just muting tracks in and out, but it has to also work in a vertical linear format as well. So I'm literally playing on the XY composition field.
It's almost like you're conducting and you're telling what sections to start and stop.
Yes.
Say, we're going to have the brass come in now, and then, hey, they're entering a building. We're going to turn you guys off and have, the strings come in or whatever. Right. I think this is awesome. Now, I'm curious, how do you work with the development team, the engineering team, to implement this kind of interactive experience in the game? So you've talked about your composition style. You can manually turn these off and on. Is there a way in the software to be able to say, hey, we're entering this, we need to flip this bit on to be able to play this section?
Yeah, so one great thing that I love about Elias is that, so what I was utilizing here was this orange play button is linked to something called action presets. Now, this is the more intricate design thing of how you heard those transitions happening so smoothly. I have to label these as they are and then set them to we're getting very technical. I'll just try to keep it very simple. Yeah. But these action presets are very important because when I go to file and export a delivery package, it will ask me, hey, this is what it's going to be. This is what it is. There's a plugin that Elias have already designed to work with the major game players, such as Unity and Unreal. And that plugin will talk to those engines and say, hey, when you open Elias, this is what it is. Here's the folder we're going to link it to.
Oh, that's cool.
Whatever player, whatever composer has that export thing, it's going to talk to each other. And then I talk to the engineers and say, these are my action preset names. They cannot be changed. If you do not have them spelled correctly, they will not work. So we create drop downs, and it goes pretty quickly, quicker than you think.
Yeah.
So I think one engineer said, wow, that was like really fast to implement. And the other stuff comes along with bugs that go along with it.
I know the middleware has really improved a lot over the years.
So they have like a really good API design to where the development team can just, say, hey, so look, if you're making a game and you want to have interactive components, it's not as, hard on your composer. Well, not the composition side aside. It's not as hard on the composer to get those files to you, I guess, now. So what is the software called again?
Elias. That's Elias.
Elias. Got it. I want to keep us moving along because we got a couple more tracks that we want to play, and we really want to make sure that the audience can hear them. This next one, and you've already got your screen share up, so switch over to the graphics for this is Aground, the game Aground. This is the track Wild Encounter, and I have to say this one is a wild track. It's super, super duper cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent track.
For those of you who are watching with us live on our full show, you'll be able to listen to those tracks in their entirety, or some of these are available on Chase's Bandcamp. But in any case, tell us about this track, because this whole soundtrack is just, I use the term challenging. I mean that in the best possible way. There's like really crazy rhythms, really unusual sound choice. I love this soundtrack. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the wild encounter happens during a kind of a cataclysmic part in the game. It's weird kind of talking about this because the spinoff was just announced a couple of weeks ago. By the way, it's called Aground 0. And so I think this is the part where I started to introduce live instruments. So I'm playing guitar on this track, and I needed it to be, the developer said it just needs to feel like things are going down and you're probably not going to make it because there's a lot of stuff happening. And it took, I think this is part of I would have to say, the semi-climax of the game, depending on where you are, what path you took. Aground is about just building up materials, being on a driven story. You could take either a science path, a magic path, or both paths if you're so ambitious. And so this is typically where I just kind of put things together and just wanted it to feel a little bit different than the other tracks I'd already previously written.
Well, one of the things that I especially, and this is kind of a general question, but especially for this soundtrack, where do you draw your inspiration when you're writing the music?
It's a great question. So believe it or not, I draw a lot of inspiration from other video games that I've played in my life. And because I'm still playing, I'm a huge retro game collector. I own close to 800 physical copies of games. And those are just, popping something in and hearing something, then I pull something from there, or I try to at least pull from the game design document. I pull a lot from the art itself and try to just get a lot of different references from other external things too. So maybe other composers or artists that the developer may find inspirational to them. I try to incorporate that as well. So it's pretty a big amalgamation of different references and other inspirations I use, and then just shove it together.
It's funny you say inspiration. You pull a lot from video games. I was gonna say, like, you don't say, like, there's so much little like
there's little snippets
nuance
here,
and I can definitely hear a lot of kind of reference points, I think, which is excellent. It has this nostalgic feeling, but at the same time it's brand new, so it's really nice.
I just want to take a quick moment to say, and to Pixelated Audio as a podcast itself, big love to you both, because I studied a lot of music through your podcast, and you guys pioneered a lot of things to open up avenues for study to be even more abroad. And I still study the things of the past episodes that you do to this day. So if it wasn't for your podcast, I wouldn't have that extra reference and that extra tutelage to my advantage. So thank you both.
Oh, well,
thank you.
That
was totally unscripted, but we really appreciate it. No, really, it's really nice to hear. One of the things we really always try to do is push the boundaries of what a video game music podcast can be. I mean, we've done shows about music dating back to like the late 70s. I don't know of any other podcast that I've heard that's done stuff like that. And it's so much fun to dig in those. And I'm glad people are responding to it and hearing things that probably they're not just going to stumble across in their day to day.
Right. But I do want to also give a shout out to all the other things that we draw our inspiration from. Like our friends, in Discord. Like there's a lot of really good friends that we made. All of our friends in VGM Rips, and like just across the community, all the other podcasts too, the VGM podcasts that are just we're really good friends with. So I think we've all built up this really great community and kind of camaraderie around video game music, which is at first, we said this before, it seems kind of like a niche thing, but it's not really anymore.
No, maybe where we go a little bit, but just the broader community, people have really come to accept video game music a lot, and we're just doing what part we can.
Cool. So are we ready to get into our next track?
I think so, yeah. What is this one? This is from the game Jagaimo. I don't think we have any visuals for this one, right?
Jagaimo. Do you know what that means?
I do.
I don't.
It's Japanese for like potato, but like russet potato.
Okay.
Quick context for this. So this was a game that in development, whereas you really just have to pass the potato around before it blows up, and it's more of a multiplayer game, up to 4 players. It's actually really fun. I actually found the gameplay, so you're going to see the gameplay along with the music, so we'll play it right now.
Now I get all those potato puns. This is Tater Bop, right?
Yes.
That's great.
Fun?
See, there was no soundtrack when I played Hot Potato as a kid.
No,
but this would have killed.
Yeah, I feel that. Trust me, this one I wrote earlier this year, and it pushed my boundaries in terms of writing. This one was one that I couldn't lean on video game music for. I had 80s game show and Japanese game show, like Ninja Warrior type of references, and then to make it dark.
That came through. You know what? This reminded me of Hiyamura, who did Neo Geo, Turf Masters. Yeah. And so I had this like really kind of like jazzy, bombastic golf Neo Geo vibe going on.
Horn samples all over the place.
Thank you.
No, it was great. I loved it. So this is always a good question that we always like to ask when we have composers. Do you have any advice for up-and-coming composers that are interested in writing games? And that could be pretty broad range of how you want to answer that question.
Yeah, my advice is don't ever compare yourself to anyone else. Keep doing your own thing, and always do your research and your homework, especially for those that have put into the positions that where you're able to continue to possibly have a career in this yourself. And those usually the things that I say.
Yeah,
excellent. I want to add something actually onto that. And maybe Chase won't directly say this, but I think you'll agree with it, is don't ever doubt yourself too, because I think that you haven't been afraid to send us music and be like, hey, what do you guys think? Or like, it's not done or whatever, long ago. And I think being able to get that feedback and stuff is also super important for anybody.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that more. As a creative, we thrive off of that. We cannot grow, we cannot get better without some type of feedback, and good constructive feedback to really think about, ask that person, what are you looking for from this, even though if it's a work in progress or whatever the case may be, but try to narrow down specifically how you feel like you would like to grow, rather than just keeping it open. If you want it open, that's great too. But I find that constructive and concise criticism amplifies the creative and growth process even further.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent message. And it reminds me of going back to the thought that no matter how experienced you are too and how long you've been doing it, you can still grow and you can still, get that constructive feedback. I remember a long time ago when Horizon Chase was coming out, Barry Leach, the composer of that, he's done so much good music, but even he would send me tracks like they would be like half complete and be like, what do you think about this? Just for any kind of feedback. And I thought, wow, like this is a guy who has so much experience, more than most. Like he has done more video game soundtracks than almost any other person on this planet.
It's true.
And he's still, asking for like honest feedback and making changes based on how other people feel. And I thought, wow, that's an incredible thing. So that's something we can all kind of keep in the back of our minds.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think one of the things that really draws us to game music, maybe maybe, I don't know if everybody feels this way, but you have to be a really talented chameleon. I mean, popular musicians often, they can write in a certain style and get really well known for that. Game musicians have to do whatever the project demands, so it could be wildly different from one project to the next. And I imagine, Chase, I don't want to speak for you, but I imagine that's got to be something that is really inspiring to you in your career and, keeps you excited.
Yes, most definitely. It's something that I'm the player first. Remember, I started on Game Boy. I made music on the Game Boy camera. I'm the player first. And then the game music started to show my path towards that. And I remember being the player thinking, oh, well, that's cool music, or how do they do this and how do they do that? And so it just happened to be that extra love that really I'm just married to.
That's awesome. Let's get into our next track here. We have a few more that we want to make sure we have time for. This next one is Stardander, and the track's titled Trouble and Mystery. Let's take a listen.
We got some visuals for that one, I think, right? Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really
this
pretty
is a
looking
beautiful looking game.
So this is an interesting one. This, we played the track all the way through. There is a lot of vocalization going on, and a lot of your tracks so far that we've heard don't have those vocal kind of underlying melodies or support and stuff like that. Tell us about working with vocals in your game audio.
Yeah, so this is actually, I'm really glad that you brought that up. This is something I really love vocals. I really like the sound that they bring. And so I've always wanted to do a score with more vocals, and this was the opportunity that I had to incorporate that, because the Stardander, A School for Witches, is a RPG. It's centered around witches that want to become better and learn spells and grow themselves. And so you're thinking about, there's fae and mystical things. And so what I thought was I need to take vocal lessons. So I started vocal lessons with my mom, and my mom gave me vocal lessons as well, so I could understand that instrument a little bit better, understand my own voice a little bit better, and how to direct other vocalists in tandem with that. And then I took it a step further and hired my mother to sing on that track there too.
Is that her?
Trouble and Mystery. She comes in later. It's not her that you heard right now. She comes in later. But
so if for you listening at home, you were able to hear it. Okay.
Right. Yeah, the full track that happens. But yeah, it's working in tandem with that helped me understand more that I could bring to my composition palette and my tools to enhance the experience for the player overall and get different feeling from it too.
Very cool. I hear a little bit of like almost that otherworldly kind of Panzer Dragoon saga in there.
I'm hearing some Baroque influences. I really love this soundtrack. I think this is actually, I think we're only playing one of the tracks from this game on the show, but let us know when that one comes out, because it's got some really great tracks from what we've heard so far. I don't know if you've got a date, or maybe you have an estimate, or probably got to keep quiet on that.
No, I can share.
Oh, nice.
We're aiming for October 2022.
Okay.
That's what we're aiming for.
Keep an eye out for
about a
that
year.
one, folks. That's in about a year. But it comes by quicker than you think. So
There's a demo out right now on Steam, so
Nice.
I think you can play that if you want to.
Awesome. Let's move into our next one here. This is from Project Bushido. It's Techtonic Showdown.
And before we do that, while this track is playing, folks, we do have a little bit of time. If you've got questions in the chat, throw them in there. We'd love to have an opportunity for us, or most likely Chase, we're not important, to answer some questions that you've got. This is your opportunity to talk to a game composer and have him answer those questions. Anyway,
let's start the track.
On to the track.
Take a listen. What I love here is that we've played something from like almost every genre now.
Right?
Really cool. You have such a versatile composition Swiss Army knife, I guess.
Oh yeah. And I knew we couldn't have the show without playing that track. I heard it. I'm like, this has got to go in. So I wanted to make time for that. But we already got a question. And actually, Chase, you and I had this conversation yesterday. What's the most complicated time signature that you've had to write for?
That I've had to write for, or that I wanted to write for, is the bigger question. So I can't say yet, because there's a bigger meaning to where I'm going down. But all I can say is it's an unorthodox mixed meter, and only one of my friends who's an orchestrator was able to guess that time signature. But so I'm sorry. I usually try to answer questions and not be that whole politician thing, but there's a reason for it, and when that reason is announced publicly, you'll know why.
Let's see.
We've got another one here. It says, I've seen you use, what's the weirdest item you've used for sound?
Weirdest item.
It's always a fun one.
Oh, do you really want to know?
If it's appropriate for the show, by all means.
I'll just say fingernails for a shaker.
Just like,
what?
That's all I'll say.
Rubbing them. Okay. Well, okay.
No, I'm just going to say, that's all. I'm going to leave it there. I made a shaker out of fingernails
for a shaker.
This is all use your imagination.
Oh, another question that says, do you ever feel that your personal style is compromised based on the requests of the orchestration?
Sometimes. I think it's and that I was actually writing a blog about this I'm writing a blog about it. Whereas if the direction from the beginning, well, we use something called audio asset list sheets, and I design these and give them to the developer to just have the most clear communication you possibly can, because it's in words. It's the opportunity to put down references, describe what you want, inspirations, etc. And so if all of those resources and that communication is unclear, and because I'm hopefully being hired for my sound and my versatility, and if I write something and I present it and it doesn't come, and they come back with the feedback of, well, I was thinking this, or it doesn't really feel that way, then we've kind of missed something in between there. So it's my job to think about it and say, okay, I must have missed something. Maybe I didn't communicate well. Can you direct me better with more criticism or feedback? Is it a drum loop pattern? Is it this weird shaker? Is it this instrument? Is it plucked too loud? Is it a volume thing? I really am trying to utilize, in general terms, what that is. And if I have to change it, then I have to change it, because it's not about me. It's about the entire art form of the game and what the player is going to experience. And I really strongly believe in that, because, again, I'm the player first and the composer second. And then I put the two together at the end. My job is to make you feel something at the end of it when you have that entire art form in your time frame to play for that experience.
Yeah, I actually want to add on to that and ask a follow-up question. I know we have another one in the chat, and I'll get to that, but in general, do you find that the feedback tends to come more at the beginning, more high-level directional, like, I don't know if this is the right feel, or more tends to be when you kind of get down to the technical, like, I think this thing doesn't work in this particular place, or is it a mixture of both?
It definitely is a conflation of both, because it depends on what the direction for the part of it is happening within the game, and like if it's dynamic interactive music, or if it's something just linear, if it's something very short, if it's rhythmic. So it really just depends on the context, because if it's aligning to a story, it definitely was going, and they want to feel something, or they want to close their eyes and imagine that that's there. My job is to build that sound world within your ears within seconds. But and then it needs to come to the aligning of the mechanics. But it depends on it. I get the open freedom I need to do, and sometimes I nail it. A lot of times I nail it. But I do have revisions, and revisions aren't a bad thing anymore in my mind. I used to think they were, but revisions just mean I can make it better, and if it can be better, I'm gonna make it better.
No, that's a great approach.
Excellent.
It's a great philosophy to have. Next question: what are your strategies to overcome composer's writer's block? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I wish I remembered all the 10 that I talked about. But the few that I do recall is I really like doing music ear training. So interval training, chord progression training, and there's a site called Teoria.com, Teoria.com. It's free, and just put it up on your phone or computer. This helps getting around the writer's block, because then you never know what inspires you. I also just, I think pulling up, I haven't practice this too much, but a Spotify Discover playlist, just having it on, but stepping away from your computer, maybe go folding some laundry or taking your dog for a walk, throwing it in your ears. You never know where it's going to come from. And so if you open your mind to the inspiration, it will come to you, but you have to open your mind up. Sometimes I just watch random shows on Netflix or Hulu, and I'll hear a certain chord, or I hear opening for a show, and I'm like, ooh, and then I have to like put that down or something like that too. I wrote so many of these, and there's a lot, but those are just a few that come off the top of my head.
I'd like to follow up with a question, actually. This is actually a kind of a deviation from what we're currently talking about, but not only do you compose the music, but you also do a lot of sound effects work. And one thing that I think is also very important in games is the sound effects, and that we can't just take that like a grain of salt. That's just as important. Every piece of the game is very important. So what is your experience with like doing sound effects, and how do you go about doing that? Do you enjoy it? Do you like composition more, or is it just a different I guess kind of different practice?
Yeah, so up to this year, I had decided I'm not going to be doing sound design anymore. Mm-hmm. But in the years before that I was doing it, I realized that I I did enjoy it a lot. I even made a mini Foley stage that didn't exist in the industry and wrote an article about it on Gama Sutra.
Cool.
And the process of doing that was fun because I'm tapping into when I was, a child, making sound with my mouth and playing with the door stopper at the back and hearing the spring and
Doing,
really tapping into what those sounds are and making it feel good, right? Again, for the player, for it to not be obtrusive or anything in that respect too. It also gave me the perspective of understanding where things don't need to clash and do need to have their own spatial awareness. So sound effects are not louder than music and music is not louder than sound. In fact, it's a cohesion and a very direct juxtaposition effort to coincide with each other. And that gave me the appreciation of knowing how to design, sound effects, and then how to compose music, and even tapping into certain things where they fall in the same key signature or same sound realm. So they're not just out of the blue somewhere and not really meshing well.
Makes sense.
It's a great answer. We only have a few more minutes. Do we have any other questions, Gene?
We got one. You got about 15 seconds to answer it, but what do you think about Picardy thirds?
I love them.
Great. That's the answer to that. And for those that don't know, it's switching from a major to a minor third interval in a triad. But in any case, we should probably start doing our little wrap up. But first off, I want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Chase. We are doing this a little bit on the fly. We did a lot of planning, but this has turned out really well. But we never exactly know how things are going to go live. But Chase, tell folks where they can find you. However you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Name is pretty simple. Chase Bethea. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Bandcamp, and you can find me on Spotify and other social media platforms too. But those are the top three that I think mean the most in this case.
Excellent. And if you want to know more about Pixelated Audio, you can find us. We'll actually be releasing this as an episode as well, so you can re-listen to it and the tracks in their entirety. You can go to pixelatedaudio.com. We also have a Discord that we hope you join if you like game audio. There's a lot of really cool cats in there. And just thank everybody for joining in the watching this stream, and hope you enjoyed the rest of MAGWest.
Thank you guys again.
Thanks everybody for having us on.
Adios.